Hello, what is poppin' YouTube fam? This is your boy J Money here, and I'm bringing you guys a deck profile of the deck I played last week on stream. For those of you who did not see, this is something that one of the my round opponents called Fiendsmith version 2 featuring Musket Labrynth. It is like all of the, it's like a, somebody said it was a pile deck. It had like all the engines, but it doesn't have U-Bell in it, so I don't know if I can really call it Fiendsmith, but yeah, one engine is, like a lot of these engines kind of lead to everything, right? Labrynth can lead to Musket, which leads to Fiendsmith, which leads, Labrynth leads to Fiendsmith, leads to Musket, leads to Unchained. Musket can lead to Fiendsmith, which leads to Labrynth, which leads to Unchained, and like one can get you everything. So this is a 45 card list, believe it or not, even though people would perceive it as a pile deck. So anyway, let's start. 3 engravers, not really that. It's very self-explanatory. 1 tracked. I did want to play multiples, but then because you're going to be putting in the grind games a lot if you go second, because you're not necessarily going to die, but because you don't want to brick on multiple engravers and you don't have a search target, but I kind of remembered that labs can discard this card, so you can still summon it out of your grave anyway, so I'm like, wait, I don't need a second one. So yeah, we are on multiple Fabled Race. This card is very abusable in a deck like Labrynth because, if it's discarded, period, you can summon it. That includes with your furniture cards, and if you can turn your big welcomes online, turn 1, you can bounce this to your hand, discard it again, resummon it, and whatnot. It's just, it's very abusable. I did want to play 3, I just did not have a 3rd copy. But honestly, I don't know. Did I really need a 3rd copy? Probably not. So yeah, that is it for like the Fiendsmith portion of the deck. The next portion is the Musket portion of the deck. 3 Starfires, and we got 1 Caspar. So obviously this is not a full Musket Fiendsmith deck because we are playing Labrynth in here as well. The reason why I chose 3 Starfire over 3 Caspar is because Starfire plays way better into disruptions, right? If I were to, let's say, resolve either of these 2 effects, which one is going to allow me to play the game more if I get interrupted on my Fiendsmith combo, right? And the answer is Starfire, right? Because if you can resolve Starfire and summon Caspar and you link the Starfire into your Fiendsmith stuff and it gets interrupted, you still have the Caspar on field, right? But if you resolve Caspar and search a Musket and spell a trap and your Fiendsmith engine gets interrupted, the Caspar, the Musket spells or traps in your hand don't do anything at that point, right? So you could either risk it for the biscuit with the Caspar in the Fiendsmith combo, or you just keep the Caspar there, which you will end up very subpar if you do so. So that is why I'm on 3 Starfire instead. They both accomplish relatively the same thing, so yeah. And we got 1 Dock and 1 Wild. We do not play Kid Brave because we do not play enough Musket spells or traps or monsters to warrant that discard effect, right? Plus, we are also playing Labrynth. So, but Wild, on the other hand, you will go through all of your resources pretty quickly, and again, you get put into grind game situations. You're going to constantly need to be able to trigger Caspar to get additional cards to your hand to keep putting the pressure on the opponent. Wild does just that. Also, it gives you more cards in hand, which allows you to trigger that 1 Labrynth effect 1 more time and whatnot. So yeah, that's all important. Next for the Musket spells or traps, Cross Domination is like the worst one because even though its effect is really good, it's not a trap card. That's the problem. Last Stand is the 2nd best trap card because, it's like the 2nd best spell or trap because it negates spells, but it is not a normal trap. So that means the best one is obviously going to be Desperado because it is a normal trap that can remove things off the field which trigger your Labrynth cards, as well as combo well with the Labrynth field spell since it is a non-Labrynth trap card, being able to reborn another fiend monster from your graveyard. That includes Soul of Rage. Hint, hint. Dancing Needle, another really good normal trap card. It combos well with the field spell, and it removes follow-up from your opponent, which is kind of needed right now. And that is it for the Musket portion of the deck. Now we're on to the most important portion of the deck, being the Labrynth. 3 stoves and 3 light fixtures. 3 candles, 3 candlelights, sorry, chandeliers and stovies. There really isn't too much to say about that. We are on 1 Ku-Klok. One of the changes I would make in this deck is I would run multiple Ku-Kloks, because, not really because of the fact that, I mean, you do want to trigger your trap cards turn 1. Make no mistake, you do want to do that. It's a summon effect. This is the effect of summoning itself out of the graveyard. If you sit a lab card, you kind of need the bodies, right? If you don't open any of your Musket core, you want to go into your Fiendsmith engine, and to do that you need as many bodies on your field as possible. You kind of want to even have like an extra body left over for other plays later. So the body on field is very valuable. So yeah, that is it for like the furniture cards. Next, on to the other normal summons, right? The other reason we didn't want to play multiple cast bars is because, again, we're playing lab and we don't want to have too many normal summons in our deck, right? 2 Ariane is good enough. If comboing her with Ku-Klok, another reason why I want to play multiples, right? Or comboing her with Lady oftentimes will result in full combos, right? And the reason being is because we are playing 1 Ariane, right? Ariane allows you to summon muskets from your deck, right? By oftentimes sending transaction rollback, which, spoiler alert, we only play 1 rollback. The reason being is because you don't want to brick on multiple rollbacks, and you don't want to brick on rollback and risk not having a, what's it called? A furniture in your hand, right? If you open muskets and just rollback, that is so bad, right? It is so bad. But with these Labrynth combos, we are on 2 ladies as well. 2 ladies. I kind of want to play 3 because of I want to increase the consistency of getting like the full combo that leads into like Fiendsmith, the muskets and stuff. But like, for those of you who aren't too aware with the full combo version of this deck, what you often will do is, if you want to trigger your trap card, you want to be able to trigger Big Welcome turn 1 while having Lady on the field. Reason being is because if you Big Welcome and you chain Lady, you can set your 1 copy of rollback on to the field to summon Ariane from the deck, bounce a card. And the reason why she's so good is because she can resolve both of her effects in the same turn, whereas Ariana can only resolve 1 effect per turn, right? So you set the rollback, you summon her, maybe you bounce the Ariana because you had to search, like, let's say Ku-Klok, because I only played 1. And I could bounce the Ariana, and I could trigger her effect, draw me an extra card, and summon the Ariana back out of the hand so I can use it as material later. And now you can send the rollback from the field to the graveyard with Ariane to summon a musket from your deck. And yeah, now you have your Fiendsmith combo and your musket monsters on field already. But there will be times where you can't do all of that, and you still have rollback just in your graveyard now with a Big Welcome, so you can summon out your lovely Labrynth, right? And you can pop a card out of hand and reset the Big Welcome, and you're having a good day, right? You're not going to always be able to do that though, so if the best thing you can do is just try and just summon a bunch of labs on the field, and then you can Aerial Eater and send your musket into the graveyard. Right? Areas, I only play 1 because, well, I only have 1, and 2, I probably wouldn't play multiples anyway because I'm not playing a heavy amount of trap cards that I want to resolve on the field. You really don't want to summon fiends from your hand like that unless you always brick on Lovely. There is some uses for it if you see multiple normal summons, both muskets and lab, because you can summon the labs out of your hand and just normal summon your muskets. So it does have some uses, right? And it can still allow you to make a light and dark Chaos Angel because musket monsters. So, yeah. Anyway, on to the spells and traps, or at least in terms of Labrynth, right? Field spell, very good in this deck, right? Typically, your prime targets for this in terms of the Reborn is bringing back Soul of Rage or bringing back a musket monster, right? I seldomly even go for the, I mean, yes, you can go for the pop, but like, it's the pop effect on this card isn't even that important, to be honest. It's really just Reborn. Just keeping it on the field and just continuously getting Reborns all the time is kind of what will win you the game. Now for the trap cards. 3 welcome, 1 big welcome. I only own 1 big welcome. If I had it my way, I would only play 3 big welcomes and 1 welcome. So that is unfortunate. So unfortunately, I normally would have to search this. I want to open this card a lot because I just want to just set it and just coup clock. That's all I want to do. So yeah. Anyway, Unchained Portion, Shavara, and Chamber. Honestly, I understand why people would play Chamber in these other builds, especially like the Musket Fiendsmith deck and all that stuff. But honestly, when you're playing Lab, I'm not gonna lie, Escape is just the far better card in a Labrynth build. Not only does it remove a monster off the field as by trap effect, but oftentimes when you do the full combo, you're not gonna have nearly enough space on your field to resolve everything, right? If you can just like think about it, right? Ending on just Soul of Rage in your extra monster zone, as well as 1 musket on field, you're gonna flood your entire field on the next turn. Like, it may seem kind of strange that it will happen that way, but it will happen that way, right? It will, trust me. So you don't really have like the, especially if you end on Lovely as well, because you want to pop another card out of your opponent's hand, you really are not going to have the space to be able to flood the field, right? Because you're going to summon your furnitures from your graveyard, you're going to end up maybe summoning Lady from your hand, you're going to Reborn off your field spell, and stuff like that, right? Like, there's just so many things that you're going to flood the field with on your opponent's turn that the Chamber is not going to do you too many favors. Right, because like, let's be honest, right? There really isn't anything I realistically want to end on to warrant like linking off the Soul of Rage. There really isn't anything that I want to link into and keep on the field, right? Because I don't even really make Caesar like that, right? So yeah, like Escape or Chamber will definitely be cut for Escape for sure. Escape is just far better. And we play 1 Diabolica. It's just good because if you don't open Lab, this is kind of your way to get to everything else, like to get to your to do your full musket combo, right? So yeah. Anyway, on to actual spells and traps. We are on 2 Upstart Goblins, 1 Terraforming. Obviously, Upstart Goblin is really good versus when you're having a conversation about muskets, because you just trigger something. You just want something that you can activate at all times underneath your musket monsters, right? And Upstart is like a reverse engage with muskets. You play, you draw, and you search or add back from grave to hand, or see someone from deck and stuff like that, right? You don't want to play Prosperity because your extra deck is way too tight, and you kind of need nearly everything in your extra deck. So, like, you can maybe get rid of 1 or 2 cards, but the 3rd card is, the 3rd one's kind of non-negotiable. Terraforming, same thing, something that you can nearly play at all times, and you want the field spell. It's really nice to have the field spell without having to set it with a lab card. You'd rather just set your welcomes. Temple of the Kings. This card is trouble. This essentially takes all of the effort and all of the work out of having to find a way to be able to activate trap cards the same turn they were set, right? Like, this gets around all of it. You don't have to discard, and you don't have to try and trigger Coup Clock to get it back to your hand and discard and all that stuff and keep a Labrynth on the field, right? You don't have to try and resolve Ariane on your opponent's turn and try to get the Coup Clock to your hand, and then you need to have a Lady. Yeah, like, it seems like a bit much, right? But this just makes everything so much easier, right? You just set things. You just set it off of. anything you just set, like you set up, you get furnitures to your hand, you discard them, set them. You don't need activate. Like it's already active, right? And you can just flip any trap that you just set that turn, right? But you can only do that once. But that should, I'm probably going to cut it for a second Coup Clock because again, I need the other body. Spoiler, one rollback because we only play one rollback. We don't want to brick on multiple rollbacks, but we still want to access rollback with Lady and all that, and send it to the graveyard either with Shavara or Ariane, and you know you can resolve Big Welcome a second time. That's, you know, gnarly. Anyway, one normal trap that removes a monster from the field. Very underwhelming. I'm definitely gonna cut it. I'm cutting this card. The pure public. Jar of Avarice. Don't hate me for it, but unfortunately, when you go second, you're gonna put. The game state will go into grind games a lot, right? Nearly every deck can grind. Nearly every deck can get its resources back and all that stuff. Nearly every deck can full combo a second time. This deck will go through all of its material, all of its resources very fast. It will go. You will be amazed of how much Labrynth resources you will turbo through. Your Musket spells and traps, you'll just go through all of them and all that stuff. You'll go through damn near all your monsters and whatnot, and then like your Unchained stuff is like your powerhouse in terms of removing threats from the field. You probably already went through all that, right? And so it's just like, damn, I can't recover any of this stuff, right? And your opponent, if your opponent can outgrind you, which they can if you don't have things like Jar of Avarice, because like think of it this way, right? Lovely also is often put in the graveyard for some reason, and you can't get your stuff back. You can't get your Big Welcomes back to keep going and all this other stuff, but that probably wouldn't be an issue if I had 3 Big Welcomes, but it is what it is. This card just essentially allows that crazy grind game, and you will win your grind games if you resolve that card. So that's it for the main deck. Extra deck, self-explanatory. 1 Max, Close Heaven, Requiem, Sequentia, 1 Lacrimosa. Necroquip Princess is relatively good in this deck because the Labrynth furniture cards can trigger Necroquip Princess's effective draw cards. So yeah, oftentimes if you have furnitures and muskets, just musket into Fiendsmith combo, make this discard furniture so you can draw a card, keep cards in your hand. Aerial Eater, very highly good in this deck. Not just for the Delmonicos or Diabolica, whatever that monster is that adds from grave to hand, but you will often just send other things. You will often send other things to your graveyard because sending Diabolica to just add engraver from your grave to your hand isn't really all of that important in this kind of build, because you want to access every engine in your deck so you can win the game, right? So if you had nothing but Labrynth and no muskets, you send your musket to your graveyard. Now you have access to your whole engine, right? You got the field spell on the field so you can reborn it later. You got Muckracker and whatnot that can bring it back and all that stuff. Like if you have access to muskets and no Labrynth, you can send Ariana to the graveyard, right? Summon it back with, let's say, Muckracker, and now you have your Labrynth combo and all that. Aerial Eater is extremely good. Yama and Soul of Rage and Anguish. We do play Anguish. Anguish is very good. Anguish will often go into Abomination going second. If you can resolve Abomination's effect like 2 turns in a row, you probably win the game and all that. Like your opponent just can't keep up with the amount of card advantage they're losing versus the card advantage you're gaining, right? SP, you can, like, obviously I want to go into it with Soul Rage, but sometimes you'll go into it with Anguish if you really need to. There's no reason for me not to go into Abomination though, but yeah. Muckracker is probably the best fiend link in this deck, to be honest. Like, obviously you got like your Moon of the Close Heaven to access your Fiendsmith engine, but this card allows you to essentially just it allows you to get to your, it makes your Aerial Eater way better, being able to not only like send the missing piece, like the missing engine piece to your entire strat, but it also summons it to the field. It summons it to the field, and then you can pop the Muckracker now. Like if I plan to play Escape, Muckracker is even better because now you have your auto destroy target with Shavara to be able to then like set the escape, right? Because the Muckracker can't be used as link material, right? And you know, bringing back Chaos Angels, like Muckracker is just too good in this deck, right? It's so good. Caesar, I only made it once. It's probably the most cuttable card in here, but I still don't want to cut it, just in case, you know. And Chaos Angel. Chaos Angel is a lot better with muskets in this deck because now you can make light and dark Chaos Angels now, right? Engraver plus Ariane or Ariana or both, like it's a light and dark Chaos Angel, right? The Butler plus any level 4 musket is a light and dark Chaos Angel. You can bring back Chaos Angel with Muckracker and out another card. Honestly, I do want to play a second Muckracker. There's a lot of duels where I really wish I had a second Muckracker, you know, for the follow-up turn, right? So I don't know, like if I was to cut anything, it would be Caesar for a second Muckracker. That's, or like the actual Underworld Goddess for going second, so I can actually give something like have a use for the baby Underworld Goddess and all that. So yeah, that's it for the extra deck. Side deck, Desiree, kinda need to, yeah, just don't really have the space for it in the main deck. And even then, so I mean, some game 2s you don't even really need it and all that because you have other sides and stuff, so to stop spells and stuff. So yeah, we are on Ultimate Slayer though. Ultimate Slayer is low-key pretty good in a deck like this. I mean, you have a little bit of everything in your extra deck. And yeah, I wish I had space for the Chimera Fusion. That would have been really nice, right? The Banished one may not be that bad, honestly, because of Aerial Eater's existence now. Because of Aerial Eater's existence, the other one that summons from Banished may be pretty good. It may be like way better than I think, right? And like that was another reason why I want to cut the Tears of the Overroot for Divine Punishment, right? But I don't have the flexibility in my extra deck to warrant that. So I may cut Ultimate Slayer, but Ultimate Slayer is, it's just like a guaranteed out, right? It's just a guaranteed out to something, right? And of course, if I'm not playing against a deck that plays Exceeds, I'll side out the Caesar because I'll never go into it going second. And play Trouble Sunny and a Kisio Lila, outs 2 monsters. So, yeah. Part of me does want to try and fit Live Twins up in a deck like this, but that's kind of dumb. Mulch Armies, I only play 2. I only own 2. Mulch Armies plus Labrynth, though, plus Furnitures, being able to set your welcomes and stuff and still have a bunch of cards in your hand sounds really nice. Really nice to me. Link into the Vrains, we play 2. The reason why we don't play 3 is because I don't like the idea of potentially opening this and not opening a musket and just breaking on it, because I don't play that many musket monsters to begin with. But I think I could like cut this down to 1 and play like multiple thrusts, so I can like kind of alleviate that problem. Right, if I don't have a muskets, then if I do have a musket in hand, I can add this. But if I don't have a musket in hand, I can add something else, for example. So I think that's what I'll do. Right. Lord of the Heavenly Prison. We want more normal traps to set other than just Lady. Right. Lady doesn't need to be the only way we set normal traps. But honestly, it's kind of underwhelming a little bit. So I may cut these 2 for the other 2 thrusts as well. So that may be the way to incorporate thrusts into my deck entirely. Next, we have our normal traps that we side. Eradicator, Full Force, Virus, and Magic Deflector. Full Force Virus is likely the card I'm leaning towards the most to replace Tears of the Overroot with. This card does a lot. I mean, Tempai's, all of their defenses are pretty low. It wrecks U-Bell out of their hand. Like, yeah, you don't want to pop a lot, but you definitely don't want the stuff in their hand either. I'd much rather them be engraved than be in hand, right? Obviously, you gotta wreck. Honestly, like, let's keep it a buck, right? I think Magic Deflector is just as effective as Eradicator Virus a lot of the time. A lot of the time, they're just as effective, right? Magic Deflector is just... honestly, it might even be a little bit better because Eradicator only hits the ones that are in their hand at that time, right? you guys, like, everybody knows that there are a lot of monsters in this game that will search out spells, right? Snake Eye, Poplars can search, like, your field spells. Obviously, you got your Pydras can search your field spell, or their quick play spells and stuff like that, right? Freaking, what's her name? Novox or Lo, the Voiceless Voice, can access a continuous spell from your deck and stuff like that, getting a ritual spell to your hand and all that stuff. Like, this Magic Laser just gets around all of that, right? It gets around that fact. Like, the only thing that you really are scared of in this deck are quick play spells, right? Well, because, like, the only normal play spell that you really don't want to get hit by is, like, Lightning Storm or Duster. But even then, so you're playing Muskets. You're playing Unchained and all that. Like, you're chilling. You are good. You are good. Honestly, I may just cut the Eradicator. Like, I think I might cut the Eradicator. Like, it feels like this is just far better. At least right now. Anyway. Like, the only thing that this really seems to not hit is, like, Fiendsmith. But even then, so Eradicator isn't even really gonna do too good because, like, you know, the tract is gonna get searched. So yeah, that's it, guys. That's it for the profile. Let me know what you guys think about it. I will try to, like, do some combos and stuff to show you guys, like, kind of how this stuff works, how it all structures, how it fits together like pieces to a puzzle. It's a very fun deck, and it can keep up with a lot. It's very powerful. And again, it's a 45 card list. You would think this was like 55 or 60, but no, it's 45. Anyway, guys, let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. And stay tuned for the next vid for some combos. And with that being said, guys, this is J Money. Thank you guys for watching, and I am signing out.